I have a dream. Amongst many dreams, I have one dream that probably won't be fulfilled in my lifetime. Or maybe many lifetimes. It may not be my dream alone. It could be a dream of millions of people in different ways. But specifically, for today, it is my dream. A dream as long as it can last. A dream where you take your blinkers off and you look at the real world. The world unfolding in front of you. Unrelenting world. Not an easy world, but still humane, compassionate world. If you can choose compassion over any other forms of violence. So what is my dream? First, a little blinkers off. My dream, to have a hospital, but a different kind of hospital. It will be a large hospital. A hospital with 16 floors. A hospital with a huge garden in front. A hospital with a warehouse which is almost city-like. A hospital with a pond that almost resembles a river. A hospital with trenches at one side of the compound not filled up. That large, huge hospital, almost semi-city-like, is my dream. Where do I get the land? You don't need taxes to dream. How do I make that hospital? I do not know. But the very thought of making that hospital consumes me. Consumes me even now, as of today, at this very, very instant. That huge hospital will be nestled in the center of the city for anybody to come. Anybody to walk in at any hour of the day or night. Not with their blinkers on, but with their blinkers off. The hospital gate resembles a cave-like structure. Only one gate, only one entrance. And that entrance doubles up as an exit. There are no other entry points. Of course there will be doors for emergency, but not really opened on a day-to-day basis. So, here is the cave that leads to a pathway, a huge ground, a river-like pond at one side, and some trenches at one, and of course, this huge building nestling a hospital. So, here you are, coming inside the cave, straight into the hospital compound. And you see a huge, huge board in front of you, which says a simple word: give peace a chance. Give peace a chance. What would the hospital have? Cardio, gyne, pediatrics, diabetologist, special purpose medicine, internal medicine, multi-speciality, surgical procedure, robot-enabled surgery, AI medicine? No, none of these. It is a medical hospital, but a different kind of medicine. The hospital would have rows and rows of beds. Rows and rows of beds. Each bed with a starched white bedsheet. And the first 4 floors will have no patients in the bed, only retired machine guns. All kinds of machine guns. Machine guns used in the war. Machine guns used to exterminate people. Machine guns shoved on the head and told, here you live or here you die. Lives going haywire. So series of machine guns across the floors. And with each bed, you have this huge caption, both a QR code as well as a physical caption. And the QR code would also have a voice fragment when you go to that particular site about where was the gun used, how many were killed, how many died, how many were lost, and how many never really know how to pick up their pieces of life after that. Series of machine guns resting in the bed, reminding that, did we really require that invention? Does anybody win in war? Isn't the term victory in war itself an oxymoron? Don't you only lose in a war? Wars across the world. Children, adult, babies, children yet to see the first light of the world as fundamental collateral damage. There is no finger pointing in my hospital. I don't have a historical legacy to point out and say X was right, Y was wrong. This war was correct, this war was incorrect. Fundamentally, the premise of hospital was, did we really run nothing from history? Did we really forget history as it is? Were we oblivious of history? So, 4 floors of machine guns. After that, small guns, revolvers. After that, shrapnels, hand grenades, all kept in the bed, resting in the bed. If possible, a series of names that were collateral damage to that particular instrument of aggression or instrument of violence. The hospital goes further. It's a completely vertical shaft from machine guns to smaller guns, through hand grenades, through shrapnels, through tear gas, through pellets, and you finally reach a section where drones are kept on the bed. Unmanned drones. Drones that were pointed at unsuspecting targets, correct or wrong, happy or sad, wise or otherwise. And lives went off just in an instant, just like that. Of course, there'll be elevators. Each elevator would be dark, except for a flicker of light. You don't move from one gun to another gun in this well-lit elevator, which is bright and shiny, telling you, welcome to the 5th floor. There is no welcome. There will be nurses near the bed. Each of the nurses will tell you the context of the war, the subtext of the war. Why did the war happen in the first place? And how largely we are oblivious about the fact that if the war didn't happen to me, did it really happen? Or if it didn't happen to me, then immediately I'm not the cause or because, or I'm not the victim. So it doesn't really matter to me. Yes, it does matter. It does matter. Because there is somebody dying out there. At this very moment, anywhere across the world, transcontinentally, after you finish the tour of the hospital, you come to this huge courtyard, ground, filled with armored tanks, to remind you the tank warfare, the tanks that roll into a city, to a village. You move further, and there is a memorial for horses in the stable, remembering of the galloping brigades, remembering World War I, remembering both the courage and the death. Inside the premises, is an animal cemetery. Cemetery of throwing living beings in another form. The animals would have been in the war. Another collateral damage. Another damage to the war. Furthermore, you have an interpretation center to talk about each war causing how much of climate change. What happens when there is phosphorus in the air? And then another section, a small section of a few rooms that talk about war without ammunitions, war of the gas leak, war of chemicals leaking out, wars which are biological in nature, wars where words have been spoken that triggered violence, wars that even got triggered from a football match. All kinds of wars. And that's the compound where school children, college children, adults, young adults, adolescents, elderly, anybody is welcome. They'll be moving all over the place. The entire hospital would have many, multiple ramps. Because those in the wheelchair would really know and really understand what it means to have a wall in your legs. There'll be a section in the hospital. It's a large compound, which would have small signposts, placards, and a series of artificial prosthetic foot kept there to remind of people who died in landmines. When you come across them, you know, I had nothing to do with this war, but my leg blew up. And what do I do for the rest of my life? Where do I pick up my pieces? Where do I crawl? Where do I figure out how to now simply play or simply enjoy the fruits of my life? I have a dream. I have a dream that's my hospital. I'll be standing at the gate and welcoming everyone, every day, unfailingly. Every day I'll whisper in their ears. It's not a song that you play on iPod or that you play on mobile phones. It's an anthem. Give peace a chance. A tangible chance. A chance not by being full of kindness, but by concretely reminding through your life, this is not done. There can't be 1 million of children in the world who can't access school because there are no schools in a war zone. Every day I dream people coming in numbers, sitting in one corner, bowing their head, wiping their tears, telling the children, this is also a reality beyond textbook, grade, marks. The simple idea that being socially conscious is not merely to help others, but to constantly remind others there are others who need help. And if you can't do that, and it's not possible in a lifetime to do that, you can at least make someone aware that this exists. The hospital complex could have different floors named after different people. Gandhi, Martin Luther, Nelson Mandela, Oliver Tambo, Bobby Sands, Jatin Das, Chandrasekhar Azad, Bhagat Singh, People across the world who dared to dream, who dreamt of a tomorrow that did not talk about photoshopped reality, pixelated reality. A little bit of them across the hospital to remind there's a little more to them than the Gandhi glasses that would look like John Lennon or Harry Potter, or a Harry Potter glasses that would look like Gandhi. A constant reminder of life. You don't have to agree with all the names, but you have to agree to the fact that they were dreaming of a world a little different from us. They were defining family a little differently than we define family. They were defining biological connections than just calling them DNA. They were looking for bloodline different from one bloodline to another bloodline. And all of them were dreaming a world where your surname, the color of your skin, your melanin, your pigmentation doesn't really matter. It never really mattered. Manufacturing that was the first form of violence. That you're different from me, and I'm different from you, and we're different from each other, and hello, there is unity in diversity. If there is unity in diversity, if you accept diversity at the first place, then there is already an underlying unity. You don't need to say that more often than not. I would expect in that hospital everybody to sit in a langar. I would expect in that hospital everybody eating and going. I would expect in that hospital cuisines from all over the world. I would expect in that hospital food colliding with each other. Taste buds, fiery, meditative, very, 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 very subtle, exploding with food and its taste, reminding that the first meal starts in the tip of your tongue, and then in the depth of your belly. And when someone targets that, we have words which are warlike. Words which are war, famine, starvation. It's 80 years of Bengal famine. The famine in a geography where I was born. I would remind myself, how could you deny food? That's another form of war. So, I'm there in this lovely, huge hospital compound, playing Raju Guide every day, playing the Asha, looking at tangible outputs, looking at specific result, dreaming of a music where victims sing an anthem together and we just tell the world, hello, don't look at my victimhood, for heaven's sake, look at my resilience. Theatre directors across the world going beyond third bell, going beyond a dark, dimmed auditorium, going beyond an elevated platform called stage, and not the binary Nukkar Natak, somewhere in between, entering spaces, locating your theatre in a space. My whole hospital is a theatre set. Every day performers can come, join the nurse and perform their monologues, their duologues, their trialogues, their ensemble pieces. It would not require blocking. It wouldn't require watertight text. It would require testimony after testimony after testimony blocked by theatre directors who don't do it much anymore. Did they ever do it? Sometimes yes. Majority times no. My theatrical self, my documentary self, my teaching children self, my dreaming of a better tomorrow through eyes of children, my hoping that every child knows each other without ever knowing their surname. Every child learns to be completely local before using the word international. Children, when they leave cities, if they crouch and smell the mud and knew where they came from, all this the hospital will talk about. Not just gloomy reality, not just reality of darkness, not the pandemic of violence, or the endemic of the violence inside us. He'll also talk about hope. He'll also talk about, well, this is not a reality I would like to live in. I'd like to give that message. No books, no documentary cinema, no feature film, no immersive art installation, no painting, no sculpture will ever catch that reality. You define childhood not by a crash. You don't define childhood by patting cheeks of children. You don't define childhood just by age. You define childhood when you see in a large public park. Everybody mingling. And that mingling becomes a childhood. That mingling is my hospital. I have no CCTV camera. If after all this you steal a gun, well, I failed. I won't have a series of cameras prying on you, looking at you and telling, hello, please don't touch this. Touch it to feel the coldness of the steel, the numbness of your hand, and trigger of something in your heart. Just something. That triggering of is my theatre. There will be a ward that would have an exhibition on artists against war. Artists who stood against war. Artists who had the gumption to say, hello, I am against war of all kinds, and I'm ready to pay the collateral damage. Bano Sarkar, Augusto Boal, Jerzy Grotowski, Bob Marley, John Lennon, Girish Karnad, standing in the midst and saying, I've negotiated all forms of war in my life. For heaven's sake, no war, please. Micro or macro, great or bad. And finally, outside the parking lot of my hospital, the final construction, a series of temporary tents to remind another collateral damage. A brilliant, heartbreaking term called refugees. They are the ones who belong to no country, who belong to no nation state. The nowhere people moving from site to site, moving from here to there, floating, trying to keep alive, knowing that, so what if I'm not alive? My child will. He'll have a second chance, she'll have a third chance, they'll crawl back to reality. Oh, by the way, an inadvertent mistake in my speech. The pond-like river, also to remind the ones who float from coast to coast, and the dinghies that get submerged while shifting from one country to another country and dying in the choppy seas and the oceans. I'll call that water body Aylan Kurdi. His photograph on internet still haunts my nightmares. The photograph itself is a nightmare, and the remembrance of it is a nightmare of the nightmare. I know, all this is romantic. All this is putting my blinkers on. All this is looking at the world and hoping that this would happen one day, but why not? I'm not important here. I'm just a voice. Somebody would do it someday. Somebody would choose. Pick up a world which is different from this. Very, very different from just being interconnected. What is interconnected? Who are you connected to? The plug point and the neighbor? The family in the city? And the news only as a dry item to be consumed in morning or evening? Who are you connected to? Or maybe someday you shall open your first aid kit. Someday you shall open it slowly and steadily, and then take one human hand and slowly open the human hand. And then remember that every human hand requires a little bit of guidance every day. Like your wounds, these are wounds of a lifetime. This shall be the logo of our hospital. Free to download, free to use, no copyright, no copy left. Even if I don't build it in a lifetime, I have a dream. And dreams don't require compulsory taxes to be paid. I just wake up in the morning and I'm alive because I have this dream. I really have.